How's it going, aliens? My name's iALiEN. Today I'm back on another Identity 5 video, and today I'm doing a hunter tier list, an updated tier list for season 6. I haven't done one since season 4, so it was time for a refresh. A lot has changed in the meta. A lot of the rankings are different now, so let's get right into the video. Okay, before I get into the tier list, I do want to plug my Discord server. The link will be in the pinned comment below, so go click the link and join the server today. And this is how the tier list works. I have S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier. D tier is the worst. It's just simply unviable. C tier is nearly unviable, but there you need a lot of survivor mistakes. You need to master this hunter really well, and you also need survivor a lot of mistakes, but they are usable in top tiers. B tier is underpowered hunters that are strong but all have caveats to them that does not let them be A or S tier, and you can main them, but most likely your win rate will be lower with them. You can win a lot of games, and in the perfect game with these hunters, they're just as good as anyone else, but it's tough to get those perfect games a lot. A tier are very good hunters. They are very good, very viable, but you have to master them. So these hunters are as good as S tier hunters, but you have to master them. You have to spend a lot of time working on these hunters. But if you do, they're just as good as S tier hunters, and they are really viable. And S tier are the best hunters in the game, and they take a lot less to master, so they're a lot easier to use, and more people will have success with these hunters. So that's what makes them S tier. So I want to start off with D tier. Before I get into the tiers, I am a top 5 hunter right now. I was former number 1 in season 4. I've been a top hunter every season. I've also been a top survivor, tier 6 for both. So from playing survivor against these hunters, I've been able to see which hunters I really dislike facing, which hunters I have the most trouble with, and usually what survivors have the most trouble with. And then also as hunter, I'm a hunter that uses a lot more than just 1 or 2 hunters. I use most of them, so I've been able to see from that how viable these hunters are. And I also watch a lot of top footage, whether it's from in a EU server, whether it's on Asia server or from Chinese server, seeing which hunters are used the most, which win rates are the best with these hunters, and how much success people are able to have with these hunters. So to start off with D tier, there's only one hunter here. He's been at the bottom since the beginning. He's just a bad hunter. He's a joke, and it's Gamekeeper. Gamekeeper's in D tier. Really should be probably F tier. He's just bad. He only has 1 skill. Unlike other hunters that have multiple skills, he only has 1. His attack range is very short. Bad hold attack. His hook mechanics are very bad. They're very janky. They're just not they're not that usable even once you get fully fed, and he's only viable fully fed in game. He's not good early game, and it's tough to get to in game. It's tough to get fully fed on any type of survivor that knows what they're doing. If you face any team of survivors that know what they're doing, you are not going to beat them. So Gamekeeper's D tier. Not gonna waste much time on him. He's just a bad hunter, and they've been promising to buff him since like season 2, and it's season 6, and they still say it's gonna take a while to buff him. So he'll continue to be the meme of hunters. Next, I have C tier. I have 2 hunters in C tier. Like I said, these hunters are basically unviable, but you can use them with survivor mistakes, and if you really master them, you can technically use them in top tiers. First hunter in C tier is Ember. He got buffed recently, but he just requires too many survivor mistakes. Any survivor team that knows what they're doing is not going to lose to a Ember. And there is a formula to using him and winning with him, but that formula to use him, which is usually, let's say a good team, they aren't going to get hit. You aren't going to get hit without blink. So as soon as you get your blink back, you get a hit, and then you use the puppet to teleport to a cipher and jump scare it, and then you get the hits then, and your camping is really good with Ember, so you just stop all of the saves with him. That is a formula to using him, but that formula can be easily defeated by a team of survivors that are good. So Ember, he also has bad attack range, but he's just bad early game. And this game, since season 1, has always been about early game, and it still is about early game. The best hunters in the game will always be good early game. In game's great, but if you cannot get hits at the beginning, you're just going to get, by the time you get your skills, the ciphers will already be done because you would have gotten cipher rushed. So he's in C tier. Next in C tier is Feaster. Feaster is very similar to Ember. He's bad early game, really bad early game. But unlike Ember, he does have something he can use early game with his tentacles, but it's just very difficult for that to actually work. And his camping is really good. It's really good. And his end game, he's very powerful. So Feaster is good. If a survivor makes a mistake and feeds you your presence, you can win with Feaster most of the time. But survivors should not feed you your presence, and most survivors will not feed you presence in top tiers if you're playing Feaster. So for that reason, he's C tier. Once again, another hunter that's bad early game, good late game, but early game matters the most. You can try using Blink or Patroller on him, see what you can do. I used to main Feaster back in season 2. End of season 1, season 2, I actually used to be a hardcore Feaster main. But in season 6, I would not even think about using Feaster in top tiers. I wouldn't even think about it. It was tough back then in season 1 and 2 to use Feaster. But in season 6, it's even tougher to use him. So props to you if you can actually main him and have success. The next tier is B tier. These are hunters that are viable, but they're on the edge of viability, and they are just difficult to use. You really need to master them, and when you do that, they are viable, but either they get countered a lot, or there's some caveat about these hunters that makes them a lot worse than A and S tier. To start off in B tier, I'll start off with my favorite hunter, the hunter you probably know me for, Chang. He is in B tier, and it saddens me to say that, but Chang is in season 6. He's in B tier. When I got to the top with him in season 4, that was before Prospector, that was before Enchantress, that was before the Priestess spam. So a lot has changed. That was when Coordinator was still meta. So before Merc was meta. So back then he was viable in my opinion. If you really learned the formula like I did, and you really played it to perfection, he was viable. I was number 1. I have 40 plus stars in tier 6. and with an 83% win rate. So he's definitely really viable back then, but when I use him in Season 6, it's just not the same. Prospector destroys him. Enchantress destroys him. Perfumer has always destroyed him if you know what you're doing. Magician is a great counter to him. Any type of kiting character will destroy Wu Chang on a kiting map. The only times Wu Chang is viable, in my opinion, is on Moonlit, where he's probably an S tier, A to S tier hunter, because that map fits him perfectly. And in Lakeside, where he's probably around an A tier hunter, because that map also fits him very well. One of the best things about him in Season 6 is that he does counter Priestess, which is one of the most annoying tactics that's used now. But besides that, Wu Chang, it's tough to land hits with him. His camping, he doesn't have anything. He does have a camping method, but like you want to soul siphon with him. But all the rescuers, coordinator, mercenary, or forward, all counter that. And then on second rescue, prospector and enchantress counter that because they can stun you out of your soul siphon. So at the end of the day, he just gets bullied by the new survivors that came out, which has made him much less viable. And when I use him in top tiers in these maps, like Hospital, Orange Factory, Leo's, the best I'm usually going to do against a good team is a tie. At best, against a really good team, a tie. If I'm using him in Moonlit and Lakeside, I can still get destroyed with him because he's underpowered, but I can usually win. If I'm having the perfect game, I can usually win with him on those maps. Next in B tier is Geisha. Geisha, when she first came out, was S tier, then she got moved down to A tier, and now she's in B tier. So Geisha has gone through a lot of changes in a negative way, but so she's still viable. The biggest problem with Geisha is that she just gets countered. Similar to Wu Chang, she gets countered so hard. Ever since Season 1 with Thief, she's been getting countered. Season 1, she was countered by Thief. Season 2, Perfumer came out to counter her. Season 3, Seer came out to counter her. And now Season 5, Prospector and Enchantress both counter her. So, and Prospector really counters her. Enchantress also does a really good job at it. So that's the biggest issue, is that all the survivors counter her. Herself is not, she's not a bad hunter per se, but because of the survivors that you will face, that's what makes her a bad hunter. So her attack rate has always been abysmal. And with Geisha, and once the Doom Shot gets removed, I'll probably have to move Geisha to around C tier, because the only formula to winning with Geisha is to kill someone quick, which is possible because she can be difficult to kite, but to kill someone quick, but she has no camping potential. Soul Departure is not a good camping method. So she has no camping potential, which is her main problem, which these other hunters you see in S and A tier have great camping. She does not have it, and that really hurts her. Her only camping is basically going for a Doom Shock. Either going for a Doom Shock or hitting you or finding you early enough and then teleporting back to the chair and hitting you again. That's her only camping, which she can't secure any saves. She can get kited by a good survivor that's using one of her counters. And she doesn't bring anything else to the table. She doesn't have the mobility of Wu Chang, doesn't have the camping, Feaster. She just doesn't bring anything else to the table. So as she is viable, you will get bullied. She probably takes the most pallet stuns out of any hunter in this game. She will get bullied. You will get bullied if you play Geisha. And overall, she's just a B tier hunter. Next in B tier is Axe Boy. I've been using Axe Boy a lot recently. I really like him. He's probably my favorite hunter to play right now because he's so fun to use, and he reminds me a lot of Feaster, but a more modernized Season 6 version of Feaster to do better against these new survivors and new metas. But at the end of the day, similar to Feaster, he has a bad early game, and he can get kited. You can get kited really hard with Axeboy because his early game can be rough. And if you get kited, you aren't coming back because you can't bring teleport or anything on him. So you don't have that comeback potential for Wu Chang. So Axeboy is his best strength is camping. He's a phenomenal camper. His camping's really good. And you really have to rely on that as an Axeboy. You have to be able to stuff saves. You have to be able to stop saves. Because if you can't stop the save as Axeboy, you are never going to win. You can tie at best, but you're getting Cypher Rush. So the only way to counter that Cypher Rush and to win the game is to stop that save and to get someone down. If you can't do that as an Axeboy, you're never going to win. Because that's how he has to be played to win. I will suggest you to use Peeper with Axeboy. If you use Peeper, his early game is significantly better because you can actually hit fireballs at the beginning of the game. If you have Peepers, you can actually hit those fireballs to down people quickly. Without Peepers, good luck hitting those fireballs. It's basically RNG, 100% luck, whether you're going to hit that or not. So if you use Peepers, if you're able to really stuff saves, like a Feaster has to do, like a Ember has to do, then he's good. But the reason why he's over Feaster and Ember, which are very similar to him, is because Axeboy can do more early game. Ember can do nearly nothing early game, and Feaster can do nearly nothing early game, while Axeboy, while his early game is much weaker compared to these S or A tier hunters, he actually does have some method of downing survivors early game with his fireballs that you always have. And that's what makes him a better option than Feaster or Ember, because you have a better chance at downing someone early game and starting the camping process. Next tier is A tier. These are hunters that are very valuable. They're very good. Really good hunters. But they need to be mastered. If you just use these hunters and you do not know what you're doing, you're going to get bullied, and they're probably C tier if you do not know how to use these hunters. But if you really learn, you have the right persona, you have the right strategies, and you learn these hunters, you're going to be just fine using them against any team of survivors. To start off, A tier is a hunter that was not on my last tier list, and that's Dream Witch. At least I don't think she was out. Yeah, I don't think she was out for my last tier list. Is Dream Witch. She is A tier. She is a very good hunter, a very dangerous hunter. But she's also the most complicated and most difficult hunter to use in the game. So if you do not know what you're doing, you're not going to win with her. But if you master her and you really learn her, she is A tier. She's a very good hunter because she's able to stop cypher rushing, but she's able to be everywhere on the map. She can be in multiple places at once, and that's her biggest strength. If you use her and you only use one servant at a time, you aren't using her correctly, because there's no reason to use Dream Witch. You could use any hunter and do that. But Dream Witch strength is being at multiple places at a time. So you should have all these leeches on these survivors rotating between servants, getting hits, and if you're doing that, then you're using her correctly and you have a good chance of winning. Her end game is really, really good. You can have 4 survivors alive and the game is not over for Dream Witch. Her end game, I always say Wu Chang's end game's the best, Dream Witch in game is arguably better than his. Because you can be at both exit gates in the middle of the map, all with detention, one-hitting people. When her in game's phenomenal, the game's never over for a Dream Witch. Never over for her. So she's a really, really good hunter. Really good, but just make sure to learn her. Make sure to use the right persona. That would be up, down, go up, down, or Dream Witch. And watch videos of her, and you will be able to use her. She saw use in Koa 2, and I think that's the first time a lot of people were able to see that Dream Witch is actually a really viable hunter. A lot of people thought she was underpowered. When I first made a video on her, of me using her, all the comments were saying, she's underpowered, she needs a buff. But she's really not. It's just how you use her. And I can understand that she's difficult to use. But if you do use her correctly, then she definitely does not need a buff. She's really strong. As you can see in the last Koa tournament that happened, a lot of hunters had success with Dream Witch. Next, in A tier is a hunter that's moved up, and that's Mad Eyes. Mad Eyes has moved up my tier list. I always thought Mad Eyes was better than what most people gave him, which was D tier, but I had him at, I think, B tier last time. But he's even better than I thought from the B tier. He's around A tier. Mad Eyes is also a very difficult hunter to use. Really difficult. If I use Mad Eyes, I'm not winning. If I use Mad Eyes, he's worse than Gamekeeper, because I can't land any walls and I can't do anything with him. But if you master Mad Eyes like a lot of these hunters have done, then he's really, really strong. His camping is broken. His camping is so broken, you literally cannot save off of a good Mad Eyes that knows what he's doing with his camping. He's able to stop Cypher rushing. He's able to, similar to Dream Witch, be everywhere at once with his consoles. He's able to just pick apart hunters. He also has a really good in-game because he can stall out the game by walling off the exit gates. So you should, if you use him correctly, he's really good. You see, on PC he's insane, he would be S tier, but on mobile I still give him an A tier. And you see in China, the number one hunter for a lot of the season has been a Mad Eyes main, it's been a Dream Witch main, and it's also been a Photo main. Those have been the top 3 hunters on the leaderboards in China for all of this season. Up until now, it's been Dream Witch main, Mad Eyes main, Photo main. Because these hunters, they just require a different playstyle from survivors. They require a different tactic from survivors, which changes up the game and can cause them to make a lot more mistakes, because it's not as simple as just kiting a hunter 60-70 seconds, 2 successful saves, you win. It's not as borrow time, you win. It's because these hunters change up the playstyle you need, that makes survivors a lot more prone to making mistakes. And Mad Eyes is very good. Fully fed, he is broken. When he has overclock or overdrive, he is insane. So you have to not feed a Mad Eyes. Once you feed a Mad Eyes, if he's fed with 3 or more ciphers left, the chances of you winning the game are extremely low. They're extremely, extremely low, because dodging his walls becomes near impossible once he's overclocked, because he can just wall you off. You can dodge it, he can just trap you very easily. So Mad Eyes is a very good hunter. He's deserving of A tier. Learn him, master him, watch videos on how to use Mad Eyes, and if you use him like that, you will have a lot of success with him. Next, in A tier, this is a hunter that has moved down. He's moved down in the tier list. He's been S tier every single tier list. He's been the best hunter in the game, and then even last tier list. He wasn't the best, but he was still S tier. He's finally moved down. The king has been dethroned, and that's Joker. Joker is A tier in my opinion. Joker is very good. He hasn't got any nerfs or anything. He's actually gotten buffs in season 1. But it's really this simple. He's moved down because there's been more survivors to counter him. He's the same hunter as he's always been. The only difference is there's more survivors that counter him. Prospector, hard counters clown. Enchantress, hard counters clown. So those survivors are used a lot in top tiers. So he's moved down a tier. Because if you face a team, a prospector and enchantress as a clown, good luck catching anyone. Okay, Magician always countered him. Magician still does destroy Clown. But not only does Magician destroy Clown, Perfumer in a good spot destroys Clown. And Prospector and Enchantress destroys Clown. That's too many counters similar to Geisha and Wu Chang. Too many counters, and that's really affected him. And has made him from this S tier dominating hunter to, if you just use his counters, you're going to beat him most of the time. But he's still really good. If you're facing a regular team comp that does not have too many counters, he's just as good as he's always been. He's S tier. But he also requires a lot of mastering and practice. He's a very simple hunter to use, but you do need good controls. You do need to practice your controls with Clown, because if you don't have good controls, you have no chance winning, because you're just not going to hit anyone. But Clown is still very good. It's only been moved down because of Prospector and Enchantress, which have changed the meta, and hard counter Clown, which has turned him into an A tier hunter from S tier. And the last hunter in A tier has also been moved down a tier. Actually 2 tiers, I think, because I think I had S and S plus on my last tier list. So he's actually moved down 2 tiers, and that's Joseph. Joseph, photographer, has been moved to A tier. He is a lot more countered now. Survivors know how to beat a Joseph. When photographer first came out at the end of season 2, all the way to, I'm going to say mid-season 4, survivors hadn't really fully learned how to counter him, so you could get jump scares, jump scare terror shocks. Ciphers would go down so slowly, and that's what really helped him become so dominant and so good. But now that survivors, even with Joseph, if you don't know what you're doing, you're still going to get Cypher Rush, even with Joseph, because survivors have gotten so smart and so much better now that they know how to Cypher Rush even with the photographer. That they always check the photo. They aren't going to get jump scared off of a Cypher. That they aren't going to try and save themselves in the photo world. Other stuff, perfumers, they know to perfume back if you hit them once. Even if you get hit once, survivors know how to counter that and heal you back up to save. All this stuff that survivors have learned over these seasons has turned them into an A-tier hunter, and he's gone from a hunter that basically anyone could use and win with to a hunter that is very niche, that you have to know exactly what you're doing with him to win. So Joseph, when used correctly, is S tier. He's insanely good. If you know every single survivor spawn like you should with Joseph, and you can go to every spawn and get your hits even when survivors are hiding, and you use blink and you get arms factory, he's just as good as any other hunter. But the problem is you have to know every survivor spawn, and you have to be able to find survivors that are hiding. And you have to know that which survivors to hit once, which survivors to down. You have to know where survivors are going to hide when they get cheered in the photo. You have to know all of this. And if you don't, you're going to get bullied with him because he's not a good chase hunter. So because of his chase, that makes him a lot less accessible to most people, which makes him more of an A tier hunter, similar to Mad Eyes and Dream Witch. These hunters are less accessible, but once you master what to do with them, they will be S tier. Joseph is in the exact same boat as those hunters, and for that he's A tier. Lastly is S tier. There are two hunters in S tier, and I will say which one is better in my opinion and which is the best hunter. I'll start off with the second best hunter right now, and that's Jack the Ripper. Ripper is S tier. He is really, 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 really good. Really good. His early game is the best of any hunter. It's probably the best of any hunter in the game, and that's why he's S tier, because he can down survivors 10 seconds into the game. He can double hit you and down you 10 seconds into the game. Ripper, it's very difficult to kite a good Ripper, and his camping is also great. So he has great camping, and it's tough to kite him. In his early game is good. That's the three things you need: good early game, good camping, tough to kite. He has all of that. He excels at all of that, and for that reason he's S tier. He is the most used hunter in the game, the most used hunter in top tiers. He's the most accessible hunter to use because he's ridiculously simple to use. He has no type of mechanics. No, either you can aim Foggy Blades or you can't. If you can aim them, you can win. If you can't, you won't win. He takes skill to a degree. He takes skill to use, but it's just aiming. That's his only skill. There's no other type of mastering with a Ripper. You can use Peeper on him. You can use Teleport on him. You can use Excitement on him. Whatever playstyle you like the best. But he's very good. And some would argue he's probably even the best hunter. And while I don't think he is the best, it is an argument you can make. He's very good. He's also, you see in Koa, he was used every single round. You would be ridiculous to not use Ripper. He was always used in the second round. After Spider, Ripper was used. Ripper is used the most because Spider's banned every game in top tiers. So he's S tier. You already knew that. Let's move on to the best hunter in the game, in my opinion, who's S tier. And that's Soul Weaver. Soul Weaver is S tier. She's been broken ever since she got her first buff. Ever since that buff, she's been the best hunter in the game. She's been broken ever since that. I think she's been nerfed twice, no, she just received her third nerf since that buff, and she's still the best hunter. That's how insane that buff was. She's just, her early game's really good, and it's her speed. It's her speed. While Ripper's is fast, he's not as fast as Soul Weaver on webs, and Ripper best strength is that he can hit you through walls. Soul Weaver's best strength is that she's so fast. She's so ridiculously fast. She also has a projectile attack. She can also slow you down. So she also counters looping. So Soul Weaver is insane. I would probably say she's broken. In my opinion, Soul Weaver does deserve another nerf. She is banned basically every single game in top tiers. If you see Koa, she was also banned basically every single. She's always the first hunter they use, and she's also always the first hunter they ban. Soul Weaver, there's not a lot to say on her. She's just really, really easy to use, really simple to use, and she's really, really good. So her camping is also pretty decent. Also very respectable camping. So she's S tier. That is the end of the tier list. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Which hunters you think should be moved. Which hunters were probably higher than you thought or lower than you thought they should be. If you did enjoy the video, please give a like. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to the channel. I will be making a survivor tier list similar to this one. So if you want to see that, subscribe to the channel for that and for my other content. And that'll be all for the video. Bye.